Welcome to another episode of the Weeb Retreat podcast. We hope you enjoy your stay. We are the Weebs, your hosts. My name is James. This is Germs. And today, as always, we have a lot to talk about. How are you doing, Germs?
Doing good.
Awesome. And for this episode, timestamps are going to be in the description as always. So just like every week, let's get into the weekly roundup. First on the list is Boku No Hero, episode 4 of the 5th season that's currently airing. What'd you think?
Oh, it was pretty good. It kind of dragged on a little bit. The whole episode was basically just that one fight. Luckily, it wasn't more than that. That's the thing I was more scared about is because there's only five fights, five rounds that they're going through.
Yeah.
So if each round was going to be 2 episodes or something, then I'd be like, oh fuck, it seemed like the whole 12 episodes of this thing. But
if every fight was 2 episodes.
Yeah, if every fight was 2 episodes. But luckily, it's 1 episode. Yeah. I think all of them are basic, except for the last one with Midoriya and everyone and the big boys. Then that obviously maybe be 2 or something. But we just want to get through these first 4. We don't really care too much about 1B and all the other 1A students. Some people care about they love those characters, but story wise, they have nothing's really happening between here and the final one. So we just want to get as quick as we can to that big boy fight. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's an anime only. I don't know what the big boy fight is, but I'm hyped for it. In terms of these smaller episodes, I don't know, man. This was just such a typical Boku No Hero episode. I don't know. I just don't have anything to say about it. Action was good. It was animated pretty well at some points.
As always.
As always. There was one scene with a lot of CGI with her vines, from her hair. That was kind of a little jarring, but whatever. That's a nitpick. I guess some character development for Shinso, but there's just not much to say about it. I mean, it's just very standard, very typical. I don't know. I'm missing the Jujutsu Kaisen shonen style where it just hits you. It just goes straight to the point, no BS. Here's all the major fights. We're just going to throw them at you. And now we're kind of back to the old way of, for this season, back to the old way of shonen, which is a little bit more slow paced, a little bit more, building up, as you say, to this fight, whatever the fight's going to be. I don't even know which one it's going to be, but very typical. I mean, kind of, it's not bad, but not really good. I mean, just kind of, just a typical episode. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. Once you go Jujutsu Kaisen, you can't go back, It's kind of just opened our eyes. We're we were enjoying on Boku No Hero before, and then it's we have some Jujutsu Kaisen, we're maybe Boku No Hero wasn't as good as we remember it being. And so far it's not. It's kind of living up to that, unfortunately. It's just it's kind of slow, there's nothing really big going on. They're just doing training. There's nothing to worry about. There's no consequences for anything going wrong. There's no threat. If 1A loses all 5 of them, nothing really changes, Maybe they'll train a little bit harder or something, but then it's we're going to train again after doing this showcase. It's basically all this thing really is. It's just a showcase for all these other quirks that in the big scope of things, these characters are kind of you'll never see them again.
Oh man, so that sucks.
So that's the one thing. It's just kind of filler food, It's you're eating it, but it's not bad, it's not good. It's just it's
fast food. It's what you expect when you pull up to that fast food drive-through. You know what the menu is, and you want that, and you're not looking for a gourmet meal. You expect the same recipe over and over, and that's what they give you. And yeah, I mean, with Kaizen, I mean, it's amazing. It's shonen doesn't have to be slow paced and dragged out and fillery at some points. We can just get to the good stuff. Wow, this is a new this is a new concept.
A whole another class of 24 people, and we have to explain every single one of their powers and show them off.
Yeah, that's really what this is, right? This is basically the mangaka showing 1B, right? And we've met 1B before, but it's basically just getting us familiar. What else does this serve us? What other purpose does this serve? are we getting good character development? Are we getting like, are they training and getting good power ups? And like, are we seeing growth? Like, not really. Like, this is really just so we get more acquainted with 1B. And that's only really going to work out if 1B becomes super consequential. But as you're saying, like, they're not going to be that important to the story. So it's just kind of, just kind of going through the motion with this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
Yeah. So for me, not much to say. It's Boku no Hero. You either like it or you don't. I actually like the episode, but I'm not. It's just becoming formulaic for me. So final thoughts, Germs. What do you think?
Slow. Just hope at least it stays. Like maybe they hopefully obviously I want to speed up so we can get to the good stuff. But I feel like it's gonna just knowing how this show has been this whole time. It's probably gonna be 4 more episodes or 3 more episodes. It just. Man, 1B versus 1A, maybe they'll show us some cool things, do some cool things, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. So it's kind of slow for a little while, unfortunately.
Yeah, Bones knows that they have a hit on their hands, and they're not rushing it, unlike, other animes I can name drop. Promise Neverland, they're not rushing it, so...
you can't do that.
I just did it. So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on. Shaman King, 2021, episode 3. What did you think of this one, Germs?
It's kind of like how the last episode was. There's some interesting things. Starting right off with Anna and just her spunkiness.
Yes, I like her. Do you like her?
Yeah. Like
I like her.
Like she's a little demanding of our boy Yo, but. I guess it kind of makes sense if she wants to become the number one Shaman King's wife,
Dominatrix that's over here.
Poor Yo, he's going through the ringer. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that was kind of nice there.
Yeah. For me, like, I actually thought this was worse than Boku no Hero, right? Because Boku no Hero is going through the motions, but I actually genuinely didn't really care for this episode, but I actually do have a lot to. I have a lot to say about it, which is interesting. But yeah, the best thing I could say is her. Who I don't like though, Manta, Mr. Shorty. Mm-hmm. He's getting on my nerves, dude. I don't know about you.
That's actually interesting because it was actually the other way around for me.
Really?
Surprisingly, of all people, I'm like, okay, Manta. He was kind of getting bullied by her. I was like, oh, I feel bad. I'm not too much of a fan of this dude, but I'm seeing this boy get just destroyed by Anna here. He got smacked by her. I was like, what did he do to deserve this? Oh.
Yeah, but what about when he finds those thugs in the alleyway? Like, did that not piss you off? That was so stupid. He grabs a wooden sword and he's like, oh, someone's holding this. Like, how can you not? How do you run down an alleyway? You're randomly looking for a sword. You find a wooden sword and you just grab it and you're like, oh, someone's holding this. Like, I just find in the voice of his character, and this doesn't mean it's a bad character, but it personally annoys me. I find him so annoying, dude. Am I wrong? Are you actually starting to like him? Because I'm getting tired of him already.
Well, his character I'm still not a fan of, but like I feel I felt bad for him getting smacked by Anna for just become his bitch for a little while.
Yeah,
like I felt that, but like characters still don't. He's still the same, look exactly made. It's like he's literally like as tall as like people's like just knees up to their knees.
It's the voice for me, dude. I cannot like. If this is going to be 52 episodes, and we'll get back to this, but if this is going to be 52 episodes and he's a part of the main crew, he's going to be with Yo the whole time. Oh, this is going to get real annoying really quickly if I have to hear him every single episode. But that's just me personally. I mean, you might, probably feel different, but I'm not a fan of his.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of his, but like I feel for the man, like you can't not feel for that man when he got randomly just smacked by Anna. You're like, man, he don't do nothing. He's a little annoying, but he doesn't deserves to get smacked.
I feel for him, but if I was there, I'd probably do the same thing. All right, let's talk about the Spirit and the movie that they went and saw. Lee Pyron is what my sub had him as. Very clearly a Bruce Lee inspiration.
Oh yeah.
So a couple things that I want to talk about here. 2 things in particular. Number one, How convenient is it that they go watch a movie randomly about Pyron, and then they walk out of the theater, and bam, they find the spirit of him and the shaman that controls him. Like how and I know it's a kid's show. I know it's not the most sophisticated show out there, but gee, how convenient. And then another thing too, thinking
Wait,
about
1 second.
yeah, go for it.
Weren't they given tickets to watch the movie? I'm pretty sure they were. The Anna said that they were given tickets to watch the movie. So I think that
it was a setup.
She might have. Yeah, I think it was a setup. From what I remember her like, oh, I got this random tickets randomly. So I think it was like set up by Tao.
That is true. I would have liked if they had built it up a little bit more, but I guess that gets to the second point that I want to talk about is like, does this adaptation feel a little bit on the faster pace of us, scale wise? I mean, it seems like the pacing of the show is like they're really trying to run through some stuff here. Like I thought with Anno, they were gonna like introduce her and why does she like Yo so much and why does she want to be the first lady of the shaman world, all that kind of stuff, and they're just kind of getting right along, acting, almost treating the viewer as if like this is we've grown accustomed to these characters. So do you sense that it's a little bit faster paced?
Yeah. Like I prefer that it'd be a little bit faster paced. I'd rather much rather have it, go faster than just dragging on and going through all these random details. So sure. Yeah, maybe if it goes going faster paced, I can maybe go back and like, oh, maybe I'll read about their character. But I feel like they'll probably explain why she likes Yo and all that kind of stuff eventually.
Yeah.
But I prefer the faster pace than a slower pace for sure.
Yeah, and I don't dislike it for the faster pace. It's just something I'm noticing. Like I don't like it or dislike it. I'm just noticing, especially this episode as opposed to the first two. I'm like, okay, like this will probably be the pace of the show. Like kind of just maybe fight after fight. Like just you meet someone, they're a part of the crew now. Like just picking up along with the story. But yeah, I mean. For me, it was a sleeper. I'll be honest with you. The action wasn't that great. I think here's another thing. So Yo fought the spirit of Lee Pyron, right? Mm-hmm. This is a question I had at the beginning of the show. Like, was it going to be the spirits that fight each other, or is it like the shaman user fights the other user? But this time, it was like the user was fighting the spirits. So I just wish that there was a consistency to where like I kind of know what to expect, right? Because I was expecting the stands or the spirits, whatever, to fight each other, but I guess not. But in this case,
I think this is a special case, really.
Was it? Yeah,
because he's a corpse, so he had a physical body to
that
use.
Is true. That is true.
So I think probably this time it's more of a special case. So we'll have to see with maybe some other user how the fights go.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to base it off of just, because he had a weird style of using corpses. So it kind of makes sense why the spirit user would be fighting Yo. But that's just me.
It perfectly does. So yeah, I'm just curious about that. Final thoughts on this one, Germs? Final thoughts?
Tao Hun's design, good shit. Just as a degenerate for me. I liked how her design was. But yeah, it's going at a faster pace than I was expecting, especially after the first two.
Yeah.
So hopefully, it keeps up with this kind of pace. Hopefully they don't go too fast paced. So then we're going to start getting shows like the Tokyo Ghoul and Promised Neverland here. We don't. That's the thing we don't want.
That's what we don't.
There's fast pace, and then there's just skipping things. We want to fast pace. We're still going through everything, just obviously faster. But skipping is the worst thing that could happen to a show like this or something.
Yeah, 100%. We're new to this this series, so we don't have any previous history with the prior anime or the manga. So we just want a good adaptation. And as I watch the show, and it does look a little weird at sometimes. I do wonder, like, is this a good adaptation? Like, is this the full Shaman King experience? But I still have hope. I think it probably will end up being that way. But yeah, as long as they don't start skipping stuff, this was a total sleeper for me. So I just hope that the whole show isn't like this. Very generic, basic shonen. But we'll see. I'm not complaining. So I'm still interested. But the episode didn't really grab my attention. All right, then next up on the weekly roundup, we have Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. What did you think of this episode, Germs?
Good stuff. That opening scene, just
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Perfect
Yeah.
showing of how the show kind of really is, you know. And then
Refresh the viewers' memories. What was the opening scene again?
the opening scene was she was just doing a hula hooping, just like, oh, look how
Mm-hmm.
fast I can hula hoop and stuff. And he's like, oh, why don't you join me inside the hula hoop? And he's like,
Yep.
okay. Then he like goes to Duggan and he like looks up and sees her panties and she's like, perv, and
Yep.
starts hitting him with the hula hoop.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the style of how the scene went and everything it felt exactly like how the manga chapters were. Perfect adaptation in that aspect.
I'll tease you, but if you take the bait, I'm going to hit you for it. Which is, you know, basically, you know, kind of how the whole show is. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just overall in the episode, this is like a perfect show of like how the show really is. It's a perfect example, like just like a little bit, you know, some of the teasing, some of the more serious, you know, some of the just like, you know, fun messing around. So just this is a great first episode. So if you follow the first episode and like, oh, maybe this isn't for me, definitely see up to this one and then make your decision if you want to continue watching or not.
Yeah, this looks like a good adaptation right here. I mean, this looks like it's really, and again, as a non manga reader, this looks like it's fulfilling the original intention of the story. And at the beginning of this episode, so for me, just to refresh any viewers' memories, the first episode I thought was extremely interesting, to put it in a certain way. I wasn't sold on the show, and starting up this second episode, I was like, man, I really don't know if I'm going to like this show. But I got to say, the last scene doesn't sell me. I'm not sold yet, but I'm intrigued. Right. So like they go to the cafeteria. He sees her walk in with, you know, her little squad, and she is not acting the way that he would have expected her to act. Right. And so again, it doesn't sell me. Right. Like I don't see any romance. I don't see anything super interesting going on, but it's just a little bit of a teaser, you know, a little bit of a hint. So that's what keeps me intrigued. You know what I mean? So while the first episode left me kind of like, all right, this is going to be hard to get through. Maybe this one, I'm like, all right, I'm a little bit, it still might be hard to get through, right? Depending on how hard our boy takes it with all the bullying, but the little tease at the end, what'd you think of the tease at the end, Germs? I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, it was great. I was just the whole episode for me was exactly what I wanted to see as a manga reader.
Yeah. What'd you think of the nipple stuff? That game, I hated that shit. I hated it. What'd you think?
You know, it was okay. It's kind of exactly what you expected. Like her face when he was about to start going, you're like just going back to her face and just like
I'm out. Yeah,
like she can't take the teasing super well when he was on the attack, but obviously he rarely ever does that. Currently at the moment.
Hated that shit. I was like, no, I don't. When she started, she found him, right? And she's like going up and down. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to watch this. This is uncomfortable. But I get why it's there. You know, it makes the show the show. Like I get, it's not bad, but
yeah, they aren't skipping anything. Luckily, that'd be a little sad if they skip some of those random smaller scenes. You're getting really full adaptation of the manga. They're not really skipping those little smaller scenes like kind of like that.
And as an anime only, it as a it seems like that, right? Like without having any prior experience, it seems like this is a good adaptation, and they're not rushing it. Nothing's too fast. Like they're full episodes packed with content. It seems really good. So
it doesn't drag on for too long.
No,
it's just right to the point.
So yeah, what did you think? Final thoughts on this, Sherms? What did you think of this as a whole?
I'm really liking how they're doing it. This is a great adaptation so far. I'm loving how the opening. I love how the opening looks and everything. I love the aesthetic and style that they got there. So I'm just really liking this adaptation. If it's not for you, then it's probably not for you. But for me, this is exactly what I was looking for.
That opening is amazing. I love that opening. And I'm not sold. I'm not loving it. But I can tell it's a good adaptation. And that teaser at the end, man. That teaser at the end of just, I don't know what it's leading to. I don't know what's going to build up to, but just those small moments, I want to see more of those small moments kind of add up to something major. So, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. So I'm curious. I'm extremely curious to see where that goes. But all right, so let's move along here. Tokyo Revengers, episode 2. Ooh, what'd you think of this one, Germs? What'd you think?
Ooh, this one they really laid it on thick as always. Right from the get-go, they just like straight up just explained how his powers work, and they're like, yeah, you travel back 3 years in time. Bam. Like, and then like a minute later, yeah, if we just hold hands when you're back in the present day, bam, you go back right exactly 3 years. It's like, woof. It's like, yeah.
Can I just say something about that? Thank God they explain it, right? Kind of like unlike Erased, where Erased it just kind of happens and the viewer gets used to it. Like, we don't know why it's kind of happening, but we at least know what triggers it. Like, I just appreciate that, second episode, they're giving us, as long as they touch hands, they're going to bounce back and forth. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate that they, have set the groundwork for that, as opposed to just expecting the viewer to just be fine with it. And with something like Erased, you are kind of fine with it, right? Like, you just get used to it. But I appreciate that they're, setting some guidelines and some rules that you can expect going forward with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the rules, now that we have the rules set up, now we can start seeing some of the spice that could be going on here. Because now his power can only go 3 years exactly back in time. Like, he can't go back 3 years in 2 days. He can't undo what he's doing in the past. It's not like ReZero where you can just like, this can get redone in another or in a refresh or something. But with this, it's like once he does something in the past, he can't undo the past.
Yep.
And then. So that's really interesting. Now that we have the rules set up for this, it's like if he fucks up something in the past, like he's got to try to figure out how to fix it in the past.
Yeah. He's rewriting the past, but he only gets one attempt to kind of rewrite it, right? During the second rewrite, this first rewrite, that's it. Like, whatever you're changing in the past, that's what you're kind of changing in the past, as opposed to, well, I screwed up, I got to go back. Well, I screwed up, I got to go back. Like
ReZero.
Exactly, like a ReZero. And I genuinely appreciate that the story is letting us know that. And it kind of confines the story, but it gives it more tension and it gives it more at stake by doing that, right? Because, and again, I'm not here to bag on ReZero. I love ReZero. But for me, personally, and I have not completely caught up with the second season, but even in the first season, certain things will happen and that Subaru is going to go back. Like, the stakes and the tension weren't as high, and the deaths, so to speak, don't hit you as hard because it's just going to be, changed when he goes back. Here, he is going back to change the past, but he only gets one shot at it, right? So if anything drastically is altered, that you're gonna have to figure that out. You know what I mean? So that it just has an added element of of drama around it. So, but yeah, besides that, what did you think of the episode?
Oh, I think it was good. Oh, the relationship between him and Hina is just beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes.
Like, and that's his motivation. So it's like our motivation to continue watching. Well, for me, and his 100%. Motivation to keep doing this. It's lined up with the viewer and the MC. We have the same goal in mind, making sure that she's happy. Once in the live, once this is all said and done.
And that's also another again, I think this show is setting up a lot of good stuff, man. Like, they're getting a lot of key elements right in the beginning, which is going to make for smooth sailing later on. They're showing, it's not like he's going back to save some random girl that we've never met, that we don't know much about. Like, we don't really
care about.
Exactly. We've seen her twice. We care about her. We like her personality. We like how they interact with each other. It's not just some random chick that he's going back to save. You know what I mean? Like a character, like a name without a face. You know what I mean? Like they're helping the audience care for this character, and that's like so like perfect. Like, I'm so glad that they're doing that. And I gotta say, the stuff with her, fantastic. I love when he shows up at her apartment and he's all bloodied up and, oh no, did you get in a fight again? Like, that's just good character stuff right there, And
then when he said her name, when he's like, oh, I'm gonna protect you, and then they both start blushing, and you're like, that's the good stuff right there. That's the good stuff.
100%. And huge Fight Club vibes this episode, huh, Germs?
Oh yeah,
Oh
and then
yeah.
like, and then that ending there when he's like, okay, I thought maybe he was like, okay, I'll jump in to fight the guy. And he's like, no, I'm gonna fight the boss. And it's like, whoa, the balls on this guy, especially since like he can't just like, it's not like he can like fight him and then like, you know, rewind to fight him again, but like now he knows his tactics.
Yeah.
It happens in so many things. It's like, oh yeah, I fought him like 10 times already before I fought him this time, but it's like, no, he's got one shot. Like you know, he's fighting against the big boss. If he fucks up,
we all expected him to take his boy's place, right? But instead, he's like, "No, I propose a new match. I'm going to fight the boss." Which
what
is
an
like,
absolute mad lad.
What a Chad! What an absolute Chad! Like that's like perfect, dude.
Yeah, because like he was like scared and like he got his ass like completely beat like a little bit earlier at that night when he like brought up the those people's names like by the boss, and he's like, boss is like, yeah, don't ever bring those names up or again or I'll kill you.
Yeah.
So it's like you think he like, you know, from what we've seen, like, oh, maybe he'd be like super scared of the boss, you know, like wouldn't even want to get close to even like getting in his way. But it's like, no, I'm fighting the boss right now. It's like, woof. Like I especially after he saw Hien and he's like, his motivation, he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go save her.
Yep. And I don't think he's next episode. I don't think he's gonna win, right?
Oh,
like
no,
I think he's gonna get his ass beat a couple times, right? But just the fact that he's like, no, I'm stepping up. I'm gonna do this. Like I just love that, dude. Like such a good character moment there. Anything else that you want to talk about? I mean, we pretty much touched on everything I loved about this episode. Anything else that like comes to mind everything? For you? Yeah, the whole thing was great. This show is starting off with a banger, dude. Like this is out of all the stuff we're watching, like I have such high hopes for this one. And you know, the animation is great, but it's not even that it's not breathtaking, right? Like maybe some of these other ones, but like it doesn't need to be. Like the story is so good, the characters are so it's just good. It's setting up everything perfectly. It's doing everything that it needs to. So yeah, final thoughts, Germs?
Great episode. Excited to see the second one. You know, it's been really good so far. So just excited to continue watching.
Is it fair to say of this weekly roundup, this is one of the ones that you're maybe more hyped for, more excited to see where this goes?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. This is Fight Club. This is good character stuff. You know, a little bit of Back to the Future, but you can't just keep bouncing. Like I love it. I love it so far. It's doing great. All right, let's move along here. Let's get to 86, episode 2. What did you think of this episode?
It's kind of similar to the first one. Like it hasn't got me super. I'm not super hooked yet. But there, you know, there's a lot of interesting things going on. You know, a lot of unique and interesting things. Like the characters are a little bit interesting. You know, they don't feel super generic, and like the world obviously is wholly unique to me. It feels like. Yeah. And just the main characters. Well, I'll call them both the main characters. Really, they're both the main characters. But just like when she went to like the training camp with all the cadets, and she starts telling the cold hard truth. And it's like whoa.
Out of nowhere. Out
of nowhere.
They didn't really build that up. She just walks in and she's just like, yeah, let me give you the true history. Let me give you what actually is happening. And it's like, whoa, like even the audience wasn't really familiar with that. So that really kind of came out of left field, didn't it?
And like you would think like they would like that would be like super hidden information and like, but I guess she's kind of protected, as they said, like, oh
yeah,
you because you're like the daughter of, you know, blah blah blah. So
right.
that was just interesting out of nowhere. Just like, yeah, so yeah, actually they aren't like oh, aren't they like pigs or something inside of these? Like, no, it's actual humans. And like then like the professor's like, no, you can't. Those like, you know, they're not even human. You know, it's like So it's really interesting. Like he obviously knows, you know, the professor, and so it seems like everyone kind of just knows that this is going on, just kind of like lets this happen, you know. But she's, you know, actually, you know, feeling for them, as you know, someone would.
Well, and I assume that a big theme of this show is going to be this element of discrimination against the 86, as they are referred to, right? Because you have the 85, and then right outside is going to be the 86, and they're kind of, you know, treated as non-humans, as you say. And I mean, you get a hint, a feel of where it's going to go. I mean, you assume she is going to start to build a relationship with her crew that she's managing, and maybe she'll fight for them and try to fight for their freedoms, maybe, and get them recognized as, part of the Republic and part of, regular people and stuff like that. So with this episode, you're really, I thought that this would be a concept, because from what I read, I kind of knew that this was going to be an element to the story. I thought that this might be something introduced a little bit later on, maybe halfway through the series, maybe at the end. But yeah, second episode, really out of nowhere, she's like, yeah, no, this is the true history. This is what's happening. It's messed up. It's like, whoa, like they almost really kind of didn't build that up. But, maybe they have to get it done with now, so that maybe the rest of the season, maybe she
Focus
fights
on
for them
solving
or
it.
something. Yeah. So, which if that's the case, then that's great too. I felt like this episode went by so fast, dude. When the end credits came up, I'm like, whoa, is this episode done already? Like, what? Did you feel that way too? Flew by like nothing.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of stuff that happened, but I feel like there should have, the time just flew by, Like some of the little scenes happened, and like some really nice little scenes that were added in there. Like it just kind of extra scenes that like would be totally useless, but like were just nice additions. Like when he was like putting the tag inside of his like box of like all those tags with all the other dead people.
Yep.
It was like, okay, like he cares about all his crewmates and team that everyone's died, and it's like he's not just cold. Usually in anime, the MC's cold, heartless, loner, but like no, he actually cares about like all of his crewmates, as we saw in the first episode. But it was just good to see more of that,
Yeah, I think they're leaving a lot of little breadcrumbs for us right now. A lot of little stuff that is kind of getting us familiar with the world, and I think that they're gonna expand upon a lot of it. What do you think of the fight scene, by the way?
Oh, I forgot. I have it in my notes, but the animation of like the robot doing all those crazy things was pretty sick. I really loved it.
Pretty sick, right?
And especially like a lot of the cool moments where like he would just like jump on top of a thing and just like shoot it instantly and just jump off, and it's like, oh, it's so badass,
Yeah.
Obviously, I also just want to see a little bit more of the other side, the Empire, whatever they call it. Like, I wonder how that side is as well. That's the one little thing I feel like we're gonna focus obviously on the 86, but I just maybe we get a little taste of how the other side is. Like, is the other side really just like a bunch of bad guys?
Mm-hmm.
But
that is one thing that I am a little bit. If everything else about this show has been perfect for me so far, that is one thing I would say I'm a little bit worried about, right? Because what some anime tend to do is they really build up the home base, right? And then the enemy that randomly attacks sometimes is kind of faceless, right? The only example I can think of right now, and I'm sure that there's tons of more, is like Evangelion, right? Like fighting the angels. The angels are kind of just, like not given as much attention to as the main crew. And so hopefully these, what'd you say, the Empire that they're fighting?
Empire, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Hopefully we get more backstory and we learn about their motivation, and it's not just a bunch of random attack drones that just come and attack. Like if they can make it a little bit more personal, that would be great. But yeah, I think everything else besides that, and I can't really complain about that yet, because that's just a worry going forward. But they might give some character development to the other side as well. So I think everything for me, everything has been perfect. That's just a little concern, but everything has been perfect for me. It's a little bit slower paced, but they're really building up a lot of stuff here. So I have no complaints. I really like this episode. So final thoughts from you?
Yeah, overall, so far the first two episodes I've seen are pretty good. I just don't, for some reason, I'm not just, it's something that's not hooking me for some reason. I don't know why. Everything else is good, nothing. I have no complaints by anything so far. It's just for some reason I'm not hooked and invested in it so far for some reason. But I'm definitely gonna keep watching. It's good stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly intrigued. I might not be hooked as well, but I'm almost convinced that I'm going to be hooked. You know what I mean? Because I think it's going to be her and the captain over there. I think they're going to build a relationship of some sort. I think that might be the main glue to this whole project. But yeah, I don't doubt it. I think this is going to be a good anime. I think if you're sleeping on this one and you want a more sophisticated, sci-fi / apocalyptic world, I guess you could say, like this might be a good fix for you, and maybe check this one out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's head on to the final show on the weekly roundup here. Nomad, Megalo Box, Season 2, Episode 3. What did you think, Germs?
Good, lot of good things in here. A lot of little moments and continuing some storylines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like right from the beginning, they went hard about the immigrants again. They're really they're really hammering home that point. Like the old woman is just trying to buy some groceries or something. Just had a bunch of thugs just like, oh, you can't be here, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they went right hard from it. And then then there was like a sign of like the citizens like put in like, oh, like a little like hanging doll and written all in blood and stuff, like get out. And it's like, oh, they're really hammering this home, and it perfectly fits into the story of what's going on right here. It's not just like thrown in.
Mm-hmm. And think about the unseen when the little gang shows up, they throw that bottle over, starts a fire. The water too, right? They cut off their water. Like like that's a huge theme for this season. And like you said, it totally fits. It doesn't feel forced or like, you know what I mean? Like it shows us Chief's motivations for fighting. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it's all so important for so many shows. Just the motivation, like, oh, what's the motivation of the guy in Avengers? What's the motivation of 86? We feel we can instantly feel what the motivation of Chief is, and also for our boy. So it's doing such a good job, and just the everything about the style and the animation, everything just. It fits so good, so good.
It does, and think about the parallel, right, between Chief's past use and Joe's currently recovering from pills, because Chief is also he's lost his wife and his son, right, and so you think back to the first episode when he's kind of scolding Joe. Well, it kind of makes sense now because he's been through that situation before. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't just some random dude saying, "Hey, put down the pills, bro." Like he's he has experience with this, and so I think going forward, you might see Joe and Chief kind of obviously they're working together, but you might see Joe get some words of advice and some wisdom from Chief because Chief has been down the same road before. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like it was really interesting because like in his like and like seeing the ghost, like the ghost was all like, oh, you're just trying to do the exact same story that you saw how he did it. Now you want to do the exact same thing. You can't do that. It's like the demons in his head are like, no, you can't be happy. You can't recover from this.
Yeah.
So Joe's dealing with it perfectly.
The scenes with Nambu, I think, are so good, dude. Like, because it was a little bit of a twist there, right? That it's he's dead, but now that we know that, and now that we know it's like this demon, like his inner demons talking to him, like, it's so good, dude. And my favorite was this your favorite scene? Let me tell you, this was my favorite scene when he reaches out with his fingers and his hand, and he asks Nanbu, will you fight with me one more time? And then he kind of looks up and like he realizes that he's not there anymore. And he's not like kind of, egging him on and talking all his crap. Like, I thought that was so brilliant how they did that, man. I loved that scene. I thought it was so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was the. I also like the one scene like when Nambu was like, he has like the pills in his hand. It's like, oh, just take some.
Take some. Yeah. So good, dude. I think is this the sleeper hit of the season, Germs? Is this the one that everyone's sleeping on? Like,
I have a feeling it honestly is. I feel like there's honestly no reason why it shouldn't be a sleeper hit. I think that everyone enjoyed the first season, but just seeing how the numbers of how many people are watching this, it's just like, ooh, they're really missing out. And I would, if you're not watching Megalo Box, we would super recommend watching this. This is really good and it's they're not doing it in like a immature way. It's like it feels like real, mature, and like they're not just like throwing in things into the blender and see what works. Like they're throwing in, they know exactly what they're doing here. They're little things that they're throwing in there are just perfect.
It's in good hands, man. They have a new style to it. They have a new, the discrimination aspect, the whole, theme, the whole vibe to it. It's different, but it fits, dude. It totally works. And so here's my theory. First season came out 2018, right? 3 years ago. A lot of new anime fans since then. So maybe, people that recently got into watching seasonal stuff didn't watch the first season of Megalo Box, and that's maybe why it's being slept on. I mean, I don't know, but
also Netflix jail and all that.
true. Yeah, well, yeah, that's going to be
Yeah.
it's a big reason right there. But if you're sleeping on this and you like the first season, or you just like combat sports in general, highly recommend. And it feels like every episode there's just this momentum, like they just keep the momentum alive, you know what I mean? Like every episode you're going to get a lot of content, a lot of action packed stuff, a lot of you just the story just progresses so far every episode, but it doesn't feel like it's going fast paced or slow paced. Like it's hitting the mark, you know what I mean? Like
Feels natural.
Chief is already 2 fights into the tournament, and we assume maybe the third and final one is going to be big. Like it's progressing along perfectly, in my opinion, and I have absolutely no complaints about it. I think it's great.
Yeah, we had a lot of good shows this season. They're just they're just fantastic. There's barely any problems, especially with this, and just the style of and the festival, and then the Spanish influence. It's just beautifully added on.
Yeah, you can always. I'm butchering it, but you always have a place to come home to. Like he's explaining what what he was saying. Just so good, dude. Just so good. So yeah, final thoughts, Jerome, on Nomad Megalo Box Season 2, Episode 3.
Yeah, I think so far this is a great episode, and the first one was great in setup as well. So excited to see how this. I imagine probably the final fight for the little tournament there is probably gonna be the next episode, and it's probably gonna be really spicy as always.
Let's do some predictions. First prediction: does Chief win the tournament, or does he lose it?
I imagine something's gonna probably come up, or he's gonna get injured the day before. So I feel like something might happen where he might lose or something. And that's the worst end, because then the whole village and everything is gonna be kind of fucked, and that's gonna be kind of real hard to see. But I hope he wins. The village gets at least somewhat normalcy. But I feel like that sketchy mob dude is gonna pull something, unfortunately.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah,
even more than what's been going. They're already starting to Molotov the houses. It's
yeah. So your prediction is he's gonna lose
or not even be able to show up somehow for some third party reason.
Same with me. Same with me. I think the problem of them finding, keeping the land or finding, a new place to live, I don't think that's going to be resolved right away, because we got a whole season, right? So that might be the cherry on top at the end, or the big conclusion at the end. So that's first prediction. We're both going to go. He ain't gonna win that final round. And this might be a dumb question, but we're 3 episodes in. It's worth asking. Does Joe get back in the ring?
I think eventually, Joe. I think after, if the Chief either gets hurt or unable to fight anymore for some certain, he ran into a burning little trailer, so maybe something happened there. But I feel like Joe's gonna eventually get back into the ring. Maybe if not, then he's obviously gonna become a trainer in some sort of way. Maybe he'll train the little kid that now hates him, or just train someone else.
Dude, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they really have 2 options. Either Joe becomes the trainer for Chief for that little kid. He just, does that, or he finds some motivation or some reason to get back in the ring. I assume if Chief loses, maybe he thinks, if I go win Megalonia, that'll get enough money for you guys to keep your land or something like that, maybe. And then Joe goes to Megalonia.
Or buy a new land, or buy a new land or something.
Or something, yeah. But man, I didn't even think about him training that little punk-ass kid. I didn't even think about that. So
yeah, and then also, I think maybe nothing will come from this. But they keep showing the other kid, the mom's kid, the one that stole the stuff originally. They keep showing back to him and what he's been doing. Really,
I was talking about that kid. I
I
was
don't
talking about
know.
that kid.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was
What kid were you
thinking
talking
about
about?
the from the first season. First season.
Oh, oh, oh,
Yeah, but I
oh.
think he hates him, so it's probably not possible for.
Well, yeah, but no, I thought you were talking about him making the punk
Yeah,
ass kid a good kid and then like training him or
yeah.
something.
I
Which
could see
I
that
could see
too.
that. I could see that. I don't know. Yeah, when does the OG kid come back in here? Because he's got to come back in here at some point, right?
Well, he's gonna be older now.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have an exact date. Probably someone knows the exact how much time has passed since the first season in this one, but
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah, maybe it was at 3 years or something like that. They've had more Megalonia champions since Joe. But yeah,
yeah.
so you're saying Joe will get back in the ring at some point this season?
Yeah, I would say probably more likely if Joe getting back in the ring than becoming a trainer, but maybe a little bit of both, you know?
Yeah. Well, when I say back in the ring, I mean he's back in action, back fighting, not just
Yeah.
a trainer, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
they're pretty much going to go one of those two directions, I think. And so I would also predict that he gets back. I think Chief probably loses, and then somehow, Joe has to save the day by winning the big tournament. You know what I mean? To help them with their land and all that. So. All right, that's the weekly roundup. Such good stuff. Of this week, what would you say is like really piquing your interest? Like obviously Megalo Box, right? And obviously like Tokyo Revengers, right?
Yeah, one that's piqued my interest the most would probably be Revengers, just because
Yeah.
there's the setup and the spice that happened at the end of the episode. But Megalobox, Megalobox has consistently been good, and also with Revengers as well. But I think Revengers is the one I'm most interested to see how this next episode goes. Because Megalobox, we know a little bit of both of how those two are probably either of those two are probably gonna go the next episode. But just seeing how the fallout of what happens after, either he gets his Revengers getting his ass beat, or Megalo if the chief loses. So it's like it's the most important part. It's not just like the fight isn't, it's important, but the really important part is what happens after. It's like if Chief loses, what really happens to the land? Does it just there's me so much interesting things to see there.
Yeah, and they keep throwing twists at us too. Yeah, those two for me for sure. Let's move on to the weekly discussion. So, since we're starting up a new season here, we thought it'd be very apropos to talk about when do you drop an anime? When do you start something and you realize, this isn't for me, right? Like I'm not enjoying the show. People may like it, but this isn't for me. I'm not going to stick around for the entire run. And traditionally, it was known as the 3-episode rule. So you want to explain what that 3-episode rule is, Jeremy? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, so the 3-episode rule is just when you start watching a show after 3 episodes, if you don't like it or you don't want to continue, then you just drop it. You got a little bit of taste, so now you just drop it and bam, now you can go to something else. You're gonna watch the full thing of.
And I can tell you, AnyTube, I guess we'll call it, back in the early 2010s, everyone talked about the 3-episode rule. Like people actually lived and died by the 3-episode rule. Like anime YouTubers, like sometimes they'd be like, yeah, like that show was cool, but it didn't pass my 3-episode rule. And it's like, oh damn. So yeah, the first question that we have is really just kind of for ourselves. Like, do you follow the 3-episode rule now in 2021 still, or have you ever?
Personally, I'm a mad lad, so I've never followed the 3-episode rule. The only rule I really have is like the first 10-second rule. Like when you drop when you drop something, you're like, oh, take backsies. That's only happened like twice, where it's like I start an episode, I'm like, I see the first like 10 seconds, I'm like, oh no, I'm out. Like this, like Gamers. I don't know if anyone knows, but Gamers, like a few seasons ago, I watched the first 10 seconds, heard the MC talk, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Nope.
Like for me, once I get like an episode in, I'm in. I'm the mad lad. I've seen so many shows I probably should have stopped after just the first episode, let alone the third. But personally, I've never followed it because I just always I never drop anything. I'm more of like, I want to see the best and the worst. You got to appreciate the best by seeing the worst for me. So I personally never
100%.
felt it, but what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with you in that. And we're both completionists in that aspect, right? Like even if you know the ship is going down, like, the ship is we're not surviving here. Like we're going under. You still stick around just so you can and not to reference it again, but that's exactly how I felt with Promised Neverland second season. Because the first season hooked me so much, I felt indebted to the show to at least see how it ends. And yeah, it's everything I thought and worse. But for me, I never really followed the 3 episode rule. For me, it was honestly the 1 episode rule. Like, I cannot tell you how many anime I've seen the first episode of and I never watched anything past it. If I get 3 episodes into a show, I'm gonna finish it. I might not finish it immediately, but it's on my list of like, okay, like I have to go back and revisit that one, and I have to eventually finish that someday, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
it's planned. But yeah, there's tons of anime that I've seen the first episode of, and I'm just like, yeah, no, and I have no plans on going back to it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Yeah,
think? Do you think the 3 episode rule is good? Like, do you think that's a good way to actually, spend your time watching anime or trying out new anime? Like,
yeah. I think as a newbie, if you're getting right into anime, you don't really know what much about, but 3 episode rule is really good, mostly for seasonal kind of things. Like something where you don't know. No one has seen the full 2 episodes. It's coming out right now. So
mhm.
for seasonal stuff, I think the 3 episode rule is fantastic. You see 3 episodes. You can't really look at the scores because and that's super subjective off like just the first three,
Yeah.
and that's not even the overall series. You don't even know if the overall series is going to be good. So
Mhm.
for seasonal stuff, I think 3 episode rule is good. Usually you're not watching like 20 things for seasonal, maybe like 10 or so. You can narrow it down just if you need a few more if you need more time. But for like overall, just like if you're going back to watch something older, I think the 3 episode rule doesn't really follow for me because there's now you can have so much more information to go off of. You can see like the overall finished score. Like, was it actually like overall a good experience, or like you maybe can see some of the reviews. Like a quick review, just like okay, the animation wasn't very good, but the story was good. Or something like that. So you at least have a lot more better idea than just going in blind like with the
Yeah.
seasonally.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point on your behalf because seasonally, I mean, people can hype up a show all they want. The trailer can look great, but I mean, how many seasonal stuff have we seen where the trailer looks great and it doesn't pan out? Like, and you don't know it's airing. You know what I mean? Like, no one knows. So everyone's watching these episodes week by week in real time, and yeah, with the previous aired show. I mean, you have a general consensus, right? Like, this show is super sad, or this show is really good, but the ending is shit, or you know what I mean? Like, it's really good the first half, but then the second half takes a dive. Like, you at least kind of have some expectations to go in with. But yeah, with seasonal stuff, yeah, the 3 episode rule is probably really good. I don't think thinking back, I don't think I've really dropped anything seasonally from any of the past seasons, but yeah, if I was hating something and 3 episodes in, like I hated all three and it doesn't look like it's getting any better, like why would you stay around? You know what I mean? Like, this is a hobby. This is for entertainment. Like, if you're not being entertained, that's the disparity there, right? Like, we're both completionists. We want to complete a bunch of stuff. So we at least have that experience and we know our complete thoughts on the show, right? But at the same time, if something has hundreds of episodes and you're not liking any of it, well, you're just kind of wasting your time at that point. Like, you're not going to impress anyone by saying that you've watched all of One Piece, but you don't like any of it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not for you, it's not for you, right? So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think that's a really good point for seasonal stuff. I didn't even think about that.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you brought up a little bit ago, but like yeah, the first 3 episodes really like encapsulate what the whole show's going to be. Usually obviously when they create the show, they don't think, oh yeah, we have to make sure the first 3 episodes are really good, and then but it's all about like watching the 3 episodes. Okay, do I like what those 3 episodes are doing? Like, do I have a general idea how this is going? Do I like these characters? Do I just hate these characters? And then you can make a decision like, okay, I liked a lot of this aspect. I can live with maybe one of these things I don't really like, but the rest was good, so I'll just continue watching. But if you watch it the rest of it, and you're like, oh, I hated every single one of these things. Phew, easy drop right there.
Let me push back against you here for a second. I think that the studios and the creators are very aware of, nailing a beginning, and maybe not 3 episodes, maybe 5, maybe 2, maybe 1. But I think writers and directors, I think they're very aware that they need to hook in an audience immediately. So, and that's why you see with certain shows, I can name drop a few, but the beginning will look better towards than the end seasonally, because the animation budget, they blew their load on the beginning, very visually appealing fight scene, or, just something that really hooks you. And then you get to episode 11, 12, and it's like, oh, this show doesn't look nearly as good as it used to. And the reason why shows they never get better later on, but they never really, look better later on, is because they're trying to hook you in the beginning, right? So if they're going to show you the best of the best and give you all the goods, they're going to do it at the beginning. That way you stay for the whole ride. You know what I mean? And so,
I see.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. That's how I would assume. I mean, think of Attack on Titans. You remember, that Levi fight, the very famous one. The camera angle's dipping through, and he's going, when he meets up with Kenny and all that. The reason they do that, the reason that they throw all that Sakuga at you in the beginning of the season, is because they want you to be like, like, I'm hooked. I want to see more of this. But then you get towards the end of the season, and it looks good, but it doesn't have as many of those moments. You know what I mean? Because they've already hooked you. They already got you to stay and be tuned in for the ride, right?
Yeah, and usually it's a little bit harder for the 3-episode rule for something like a long running thing, like a One Piece or like Attack on Titan. Unfortunately, but usually if you have to start worrying about that, it's already a show that's already the first season or something is already previously aired, or something. That's why the 3-episode rule like sometimes doesn't work too well. It's like if it's already if watching a 3, you're like, oh, should I stop at like episode 3 of like season 3? It's like. That's a lot harder. It's like, you already, for me, if I already watched like the first few seasons and like the first few episodes of a season are kind of slow, it's like, okay, it's just the beginning, maybe it'll get back to its heights. But that's a totally different conversation than like the first three episodes of a show.
True. It's very different. I mean, think about us talking about Boku no Hero today. I mean, just because this episode was kind of blah, are we just going to drop it? Like, no, we're already in so deep. Like, we're in so far. Like, there's no way in hell we're going to drop it. You know what I mean? Like, 5 seasons in, that's a commitment. Like, whether this ride goes astray or whether it gets really good, like, we're here for the ride. You know what I mean? Like, we're here for the whole thing, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, it would take a lot for me to stop watching that show completely. Like, you know what I mean? Just because we've sat through so many episodes, we're just too invested at this point. But yeah, with seasonal stuff, none of it's aired previously, or let's forget the continuing stuff, but all the new seasonal stuff, like, you have no idea. So I guess the 3-episode rule is
no one has no idea.
Exactly. Especially the anime original stuff, right? Like, not even a manga. Like a good example, JoJo Part 7 or Appare Ranman, which premiered last year. I forget which season, but because it's an anime original, we have no idea. And so we're looking at the trailer thinking, oh, like JoJo Part 7, like this is going to be an interesting, fun anime. And then we watch it and it didn't really live up to that hype. In our opinion, we didn't really love it. But yeah, no one knows because we don't even have a manga source to go off of in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would completely agree. So like, yeah, just to do like a quick review, just like it's basically just 3-episode rule is good for like seasonal stuff. No one really knows, especially if it's the first season of something, it's perfect. 3 episodes, like you already have a whole hour of content to go through. Like, okay, I like some of these characters' interaction or something. Didn't like how the main character is or something, or like the art looks really nice, or I hate it, blah blah blah. So like that's perfect for it, but for some older things or for like multiple seasons, it kind of just falls apart, unfortunately, because there's so much other things you can go off of.
True. Yeah, you just have more. You just have more to gauge it off of, right? Like the fan reaction, the haters, the lovers, people that say it's really good for this, or if you're into this type of anime, you'll like this one. With a seasonal show, you really don't know. You are going in blind, and yeah, that is where the 3-episode rule would come in. And it's funny for me. seeing as a decade later, we're still kind of talking about it. You know what I mean? Like people still bring it up, and it's still a thing. For me, it's kind of like the one episode rule. Like if I get past one episode, I'm probably in for the ride. But there have been plenty of shows that I've dropped after the first episode, no doubt. And Germs is a little bit more of a completionist, so you're a mad lad. You wanna finish everything you start. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I start a little too many, but I saw them. I'll make it in the end.
Yep. So yeah, guys, let us know in the comments below. Do you follow the 3-episode rule? And what are your thoughts on the 3-episode rule? Chat with us in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you guys, and just what your overall thoughts are on it. All right. So with that, we're gonna get into the weekly news here. Not much to talk about. There is something interesting that came out this week, and that is Quintessential Quintuplets. You're caught up, right? You've seen the second season?
Mm-hmm.
So I am not. I am only a couple episodes into the first, but just like I talked about on the our weekly discussion, when I start an anime, I pretty much intend to finish it, right? So even though I haven't caught up with it and I've only, gotten a little bit into it, I fully intend to catch up and, complete it sometime. So the second season has aired, finished in the books. And so everyone's expecting a third season, right? But instead of a third season, we are getting a movie sequel, which is, you're
Good
happy
stuff.
about that. Good stuff.
Oh,
So
well, movies are always great.
True. So this is set for 2022. And here's the thing, Germs. Here's the thing. You say that this is... Okay, let me ask a first question. You read the manga a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you finish the manga?
No.
Okay.
I know it doesn't. Unfortunately, I couldn't spoil it for me, but
That sucks, yeah. From what you read, did you read past the second season that we got?
No.
No,
No,
okay.
I did not.
Okay, so we're kind of both going into this blind then. But the big thing about this movie is people are speculating that this is going to be the series finale. So instead of a third season,
I kind of see it.
they're going to wrap it up in a movie. And so, I don't
beautiful.
know. I'm not a manga reader. You're happy with it.
Oh yeah, because with a movie, you have the movie budget. There's like an hour and a half that they're not going to throw in any extra filler episode or whatever. It's gonna, and I imagine like if it is the end, they're going to animate the ending like beautifully with that movie budget that they got.
People are concerned that there is going to be stuff skipped and maybe it's an anime only ending, the normal stuff
Usual.
that people are worried about. But I'm surprised. I thought you might be like, oh, they're going to do my show dirty like that. But I guess not. I guess you're happy about it.
I'm also more happy that it's getting another season, Also,
yeah. Oh,
like with 27.
Well, I don't know. Quintuplets is pretty popular, man. I mean, you expected some continuation, right? Like, there's no way they were just going to leave it at that second season, right? And I'm speaking for a guy who hasn't even seen it. Like, I think we all expected something, but yeah, there are some. You know how weebs are, right? Not us, not the weeb retreat, but you know how some weebs are. Some weebs are, oh, it might be an anime only, or there's X amount of arcs, and there's no way they can fit X amount of arcs in a movie. And who knows, this might not be the series finale, but yeah, it's just something interesting to look forward to and think about. Instead of a season 3, we're going to get a movie, which visually great for the budget wise, but story wise, will it be compromised? I mean, we don't know. But yeah, so final thoughts on this, Germs? I mean, you're pretty hyped for this?
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. And then, we get the whole thing at once, well, it's going to be like 6 months after it comes out in Japan, as always, but at least we'll be getting it, hopefully in theaters, because, we'll bring up in a second, but something else is coming out in theaters, so.
Well, yeah, that's a great segue. Just to hold on for half a second. Yes, I think Quintessential Quintuplets is big enough and popular enough that we might get it in theaters out here. And if that's the case, that'd be sick. But yeah, interesting. I'm a guy who can't really talk about this. I'm not even caught up, right? Like, I don't know much about the series other than a couple episodes I've seen. But yeah, keep on the lookout for that if you're a fan of that series. Instead of a third season, we're going to be getting a movie. All right, then just to wrap up this week's episode, we do want to make a quick announcement here regarding the theater. Thursday, the 22nd, you boys are going to be seeing Demon Slayer Mugen Train in the theater. expect a review on Friday morning. So we'll have that up. And I don't know. Anything you want to say about it, Germs?
Yeah, we're just anime only people, going into this movie. So, but just the amount of hype and everything that's been brought up about just in Japan alone, just how it's like the number one selling movie now in Japan. So
Yes.
we're expecting a great time. It's probably gonna be animated super beautifully as always. And it's one
Oh
arc,
yeah.
bam. We're gonna start an arc, finish an arc in the movie, and well, bam. It's gonna be
And then
nice,
I
satisfying.
and then I believe the second season comes out in fall of this year. So
Hmm.
like Demon Slayer is really going to make its way back for us. But yeah, the expectations and the standards that we have for Demon Slayer are set so high. Like the bar is so high at this point. Like I'm expecting a great time. And given how well it's sold and how big of a movie this is,
I don't see no reason why not.
I don't see a reason why not either. And yeah, hyped. We are anime onlys, but hey, that's better for us. We're going in completely fresh. You know what I mean? So I'm super hyped, super looking forward to it, and expect a review on Friday. So yep.
Hmm. And if anyone else is watching it on Thursday or whenever it's airing, put a comment down below. And then once the review does come out, let us know what you thought about it as well.
All right, weebs. We hope you enjoyed your stay. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you're a weeb like we are. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, make sure to give us a follow on there. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to our Demon Slayer review on Friday. And weebs out. We'll see you next week. Peace.